Hello friends, Rich here with another GRM training. Remember, our overall goal together is helping individuals and our community to flourish with God leading the way. So every training we do, everything we think about, everything we do here, let's keep that in mind. Today, we're going to talk about our assessment process. Remember, we start doing assessments right after they get through panel. They'll have their post-panel orientation, and then we're going to meet with them and do an assessment. The assessment is the key to doing an effective contract. So be paying attention, be fully present for those you are meeting with. And while we do have a worksheet to work off of, make sure you're answering all the questions. Don't skip any questions, but allow that to guide your conversation. As a staff member, particularly for the rescue team, because you will do most of these, you might also do one as a work start supervisor, just to try to gauge where your folks are at, or you might do it as a supervisor to your staff below you. That is fine. That is a great tool to use. But the point is you want to be fully present for them and listen to where they're at and have a conversation and then fill this form out kind of as you go along, so that way you have a complete picture of who they are. This isn't just a give it to them, let them fill it out sort of project. This has to be a conversation. Our goal is to get to know them. I challenge you to get curious about something that they say that you can link onto, so that way they have a motivation to accomplish whatever you end up putting in their contract. We'll talk about contracts at a different training. But for today, let's just talk about assessments. We got to make sure we do these well, because it is a key to success for all that we're doing. So you have the assessment form. After you see, you'll have some simple things like the date. Whatever the date is, make sure you put the full date there. Make sure you put your name there if you're doing the assessment. Want to know who is doing it. So if there's any questions, we can come back and find out what you discovered and what you were seeing. And then what assessment number is this? Their first, second, third, fourth, 20th, whatever assessment number this is during this current stay of the mission. We want to know which one is on. I look at those differently, and I'm looking for what is the difference between their first, second, third one, and hopefully you're curious about that too. Have what we're doing has it made any difference? Or are they still where they were when they had their first assessment? Hopefully we're going to see some growth. That is the objective. That's what we really want to do. So the first category we're looking at is physical. We're going to put down their height in inches, their waist in inches, and you're going to do a math problem there. And our goal here is that we want to help them to see 0.5 is the ideal place. Waist divided by height will give us that number, and so 0.5 is ideal. Now, if they're 0.5 or less, that means they're going to have fewer health problems in the future. If it's greater than 0.5, then we know they may have more health problems in the future. We just want to make them aware of that and know that, and that may be part of what we end up doing in the contract, saying, okay, we got to help you reduce your odds of diabetes and heart disease and all these other things that may come up from being over that 0.5. 0.5 is that ideal spot. But again, so your number is like 2 point something and they look really scrawny, probably did the math backwards. Go back and make it and redo the math. We also want to make a list of all those diagnosed physical ailments, not just what they think, but actually what has been diagnosed. So we have all those things written down. Again, this is for knowledge, information, getting to know them. If it's an accident, because of an accident, find out more about that accident. If it's an injury caused at work, find out more about that. How does that impact their ability to work in the future, or maybe not in that profession? They need to change professions. The next one is drug of choice. What was their favorite drug? What are they used to? Alcohol, drugs, tobacco, whatever that might be. What is that choice? How long have they been sober? And are they a smoker? Yes or no? It's really simple, yes or no. Now, I want you to think about this as you're doing the assessment. You find out they're a smoker, you know you're going to sign them up for that very next quit tobacco class. You want to get them into that. And also a smoker, think about other tobacco products that they might be. So maybe they dip or vape or whatever those might be. Regardless, one of our ultimate objectives is that they get free of that addiction. So we're going to find out right now where they're at with that. Also going to look at overall in their current place of addiction. Where are they at? Are they at 0, where they are not even trying? Are they at 10, where at least they're sober? Or have they completed a step study? So again, if they've never done a step study, we have the materials for them to be able to do that. So you can put that in their contract as one of those options. If they've never done a step study, those step studies are actually working in detail personally why I'm in my addiction, and there's some variations of that, but the point is we want to get them to that, to help them maintain sobriety if they're still there. And then we have the mental health question. They're not seeking any kind of help. They have a plan, or they're really functioning. Maybe they don't need a lot of mental health help. They don't need a visit with Green Country, any of those places. But obviously, If they do struggle, we want to push them into those places as soon as we possibly can, encourage them to get that help and follow up with that. And the next section is about problem-solving skills. Do they have those abilities? You're going to talk to them on a scale of 0 to 20. How are you at problem solving? Can you solve problems pretty easily? So it's a simple question with that. How they fall apart the moment problems arise. And they, number 10, if they're able to come up with solutions to some common problems, or they're 20, they're absolutely capable of dealing with anything that comes their way. The truth is, most of our guests probably can deal with anything because they're pretty resilient like that. But we want to find out where they think they're at. Same thing with conflict resolution. They're combative, they're generally agreeable or extremely friendly. Again, 0 to 20, we're just trying to find out where they're at. And then housing. For those who are at GRM, we want to put them at a 5. 10, they're renting, they're self-pay, not government funding. So if they're going that, so this one for most of our assessments is just going to be a 5 because they're actually staying with us. Now, if you're doing an assessment of someone who wasn't staying here, for example, when I do forging past a felony, it's open to the public. I might do an assessment on someone who's actually living off-site. So I would scale them on that. If you're working with someone else, maybe with a different program, make sure we're evaluating that. And the next one is movement toward driver's license. First of all, do they have an ID or no ID? Want to find that out. If they don't have an ID, it should be an important key that we're going to help them as quickly as possible get toward that ID. That may be part of their first contract. Maybe it's get that birth certificate. It's a micro step. We don't want to make it too big, but have them do that. If they don't have a driver's license, this is going to be a key to success for their future. So they got too much, over $10,000, kind of prevents the license. They have a license but no car nor insurance, and then license and owns the car is at 20. So hopefully we're asking those questions and thinking through how can we help this person move forward with their life. Legal. What are all the legalities they got troubles with? 0. They're avoiding dealing with it. They say, oh, I got warrants, but I'm not going back to that city or that county because they'll take me in. Or they've at least identified them. That's a 10. They say, I got warrants in all these different counties, and I would like to learn how to deal with those. And we can come up with a plan, make that part of their contract, part of that plan. Or 20, they have no warrants, no legal issues standing there. And then we can also want to write out any of those legal issues that are coming up, any of those labels that are placed on them. So they are seen as a felon. They're seen as a violent felon. They're seen as a sex abuser of some kind. We don't serve level 3 sex offenders here in Muskogee, but they might have something else on a label that we want to find out about. On the finances, we're going to ask them about how much debt do you have, including all those fines. If we're going to help you come up with a plan, we need to know those numbers. This isn't, again, to judge or to kind of hold it over them. It's to find out. Our goal, remember, is always to help our guests. This is an informational moment. The more knowledge we have, the better we can serve them. Total value of their physical personal assets. So if they got a car, that's an asset. If they have clothes, that's an asset. They have jewelry, electronics, whatever, those all have there. And then this is really a fun question. What's your dream job? If you got an opportunity to do this for a profession, but you didn't, and you got paid for it, but you just loved doing it so much, it wasn't really a job per se. It was just a dream. You're doing it. So put that down there. That will also give some fodder for your opportunities to help them move forward with their life. Because they'll be motivated to move toward their dream job. And then credit score. If they don't know their credit score, get online, help them research that, find out what their credit score is, so that way they can know. It's, again, about knowledge. And you may be able to help them fix that if need be. So regarding middle class rules, most of us have had to look at those. We have a worksheet for that. So we'll fill that out. No understanding, kind of a functional understanding, or completely fluent. Where are they at with that? This is one of those things that's very critical for their future going forward. They need to understand the middle class rules. They may not be able to do them correctly just yet, but we want to help them move in that direction. So hopefully one of our classes can help them to do that, and we can make sure they're in those classes paying attention as those times go forward. Spiritual, 0, they're glorifying evil. They're happy to wear the devil worshiping clothes and excited about that. That's a 0. 10, they've actually moved forward for salvation. This is, again, we're speculating because we can't see into someone's heart. But have this conversation. Salvation is a wonderful, beautiful thing. Do they have a clear understanding of who Jesus is? And then 20 is this radical follower of Jesus, where nothing's going to slow them down. They would be happy to be like the Hebrew children, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, that, I trust God so much that I can be executed, still glorify God. Not executed, saved by God, still going to worship him. No matter. I'm going to be a radical follower of Jesus. Hopefully you and I are moving in that direction. But I just want to find out where they're at. Now, if they score like a 7 or 8, then you're going to require them as part of their contract to do some right now videos to move them toward that salvation mark. So find some ideas of those right now videos that are going to be right for that stage. Or maybe they're at 12 or 13. What are some videos you can have them do? They're going to help them move forward. What are some requirements you can have in that regard that they can learn and grow and begin to apply their faith? Maybe it's just memorizing scriptures. You'll have that as an assignment. All sorts of creativity can be going into play here as you're helping them grow spiritually. Relationships, where are they at in relationships? They got unhealthy relationships. They're hanging out with abusers and other people in addiction and nobody else. Or they're choosing their friends fairly wisely. They're being careful who they spend a lot of time with. Or 20, they're absolutely surrounded by great influences. If they're part of a church, all that. Then we take the ACE score. We have a worksheet for that as well. Now, if they have an ACE score 4 or 5 or above, you're going to make sure that they, armed with that information, that they work with Green Country. We'll say, okay, when you talk to your counselor over at Green Country, say, hey, I have an ACE score of 7. Then those counselors over there will know how to help best serve them. That number can be really important, especially if they have over 3. I really want us to make sure that that becomes part of that really quick as part of their contract when they go forward. That ACE score is adverse childhood experiences, and it definitely impacts who they are and where they're at. We can help them get that help. And then overall, how are they seeing their life? Are they not even looking for the purpose? Could they care less? They just checking the box? Or do they have some purpose that they've discovered, but they haven't really put any meat on the bones? Or they're living intentionally, moving toward that ultimate purpose. Where are they at? That is working through the assessment. Again, be curious about them. Be filled with joy over hearing their stories and gathering that all in and filling out that assessment sheet so we all have a good record of that. And I close this out by saying this. It's really important that as we're doing this, that we love these men and women enough to consider what is in their eternal best interest. Maybe they need to get clean and sober so they can actually hear and understand the gospel. Sometimes, and I've experienced this on several occasions, where they are high when you're talking to them, but God brings some clarity to it. But most of the time, they're going to have to get their head clear before they can receive the information of the gospel, and then help them move forward with their life with God leading the way. So again, continue to do the best work you possibly can and serve these men and women faithfully. I appreciate all that you're doing to serve the least of these. Have a great day and talk to you again soon.